the Darkness Devil, the Falling Devil, two of the Primal Devils in Chainsaw Man. But who are the other two? That's what we're going to discuss today, and we're also going to discuss why I don't think the Death Devil is one of them. But first, we need to quickly define what a primal fear is. To me, a primal fear is a fear that has been ingrained in humans as a result of evolutionary needs. Darkness and falling both fit this definition perfectly, as falls usually result in an injury or death, and darkness can be fatal to humans because of predators hiding in the shadows. But I think there is another aspect we have to consider, which is how primal fears fit into our lives today. This is because it's been stated multiple times that the strength of a devil is dependent on the current strength of the fear. With these two aspects in mind, we can start looking at some fears, and I want to start with fire. Fire feels like a fear that has an extremely high chance of being a primal fear. In fact, I think it has an even higher chance of being a primal fear than death does. It feels somewhat similar to darkness. Like most primal fears have been ingrained in human existence for millennia, and they're not fears that we think about actively until the threat is present. People aren't afraid of darkness until they're in or near darkness, and I think it's the same with fire. We all know it's dangerous, and we all know it can be deadly, and we can understand that just by looking at it. Now, obviously that doesn't stop some people from messing around with it, but that's besides the point. We also haven't seen any fire-based devils besides the Hell Devil, but that is obviously a separate fear from fire. There's a ton of different design routes for a fire devil too, so I think seeing this devil would be insanely cool. The next fear I want to talk about is the fear of the unknown. This one is a little bit weird, because I feel like it kind of falls under darkness to an extent, but it's also its own thing. Humans in general fear what they don't understand. That's why we used to fear things like thunder and natural disasters. These enormous, inhumane actions were being carried out, and it was beyond our comprehension. But I also feel like this is super similar to the fear of darkness. What makes darkness scary is partially the unknown. Not being able to see what is right in front of you, or knowing if the sounds you're hearing are friendly or not, is inherently terrifying. With these two fears being fairly similar, I don't know if they would be completely different devils. I also don't know what kind of powers an unknown devil would have, but I'm sure Fujimoto would have no problem cooking something up. Next, I want to briefly talk about the Pain Devil. The Pain Devil is yet another devil that seems like it could be primal. Nobody likes feeling pain, or at least most people don't. It's one of those things our bodies just know to avoid because it is inherently dangerous. But at the same time, do people really fear pain? We avoid pain because we don't like it, but it doesn't feel like it's a traditional fear that manifests in the same way as the other fears. There are also plenty of cultures around the world that objectify pain in a positive manner. Whether it's warriors that have to go through some kind of painful task to prove their strength, or just toxic masculinity in the modern day, pain plays a really weird role in our society. I think it's more likely that a pain devil is just a really strong non-primal devil, because even if there aren't a lot of people that are scared of pain itself, there are a bunch of different sub-fears that are caused by pain. It's such a weird devil to talk about, and because it's such a peculiar fear, I don't think it's a primal devil. Okay, the title for this next one might need some work, but I think another strong possibility is the Predator Devil. There's no way humans didn't have some sort of survival-based fear around predators back in the day. Whether that was a lion, a tiger, a hippo, or a wolf, all these animals that could easily kill a human had to trigger some sort of fear within our ancestors for their own good. This is one of the only primal devils that I think could have gotten stronger since our inception. The fear of those predators hasn't really waned over time. Sure, we don't come face to face with lions in the way that we used to, but are you really going to tell me that if you saw this thing coming at you in the wild, you wouldn't be struck by fear? Exactly. That fear is still deep within us. On top of that fear of animal predators, there's also a fear of new predators that have arisen over the last couple of centuries. I don't think I need to go more into it than that, but when you combine the persisting old fear with this newfound fear of predators, I think it should be clear how this devil could be stronger than at any point in its history. Next, I want to talk about the Sound Devil. I think the Sound Devil has a strong chance of being a primal fear. Research has shown that humans are born with only two fears: a fear of falling and a fear of loud noises. With falling being a primal fear, it would make a lot of sense if the other fear we're born with is also a primal fear. The only reason this fear might not be a primal fear is that the fear of sounds does not feel like it's as prevalent as it once was. People are enjoying fireworks, loud music, and other sound-based entertainment on a daily basis. This will weaken the power of the devil overall, but loud noises from wars and fights will balance it out, right? Maybe not. With the war devil as weak as she is, it's pretty obvious that war and conflict in general are not super prevalent villain in the Chainsaw Man universe. This is probably because of devils in the first place, so it's possible this is another example of devils hurting themselves. I don't think a sound devil is out of the question. I just don't think it's quite as likely as some of the other devils we're talking about. Also, I just want to mention that when I was writing the script for this video last week, I said a height devil was a super likely candidate for a primal devil, and guess what was revealed literally 2 days later in the manga? That's right, the falling devil. It'll be interesting to see if I can get the other two right. Anyway, let's move on to the next devil I want to discuss, which is the ocean devil, or at least some devil relating to water. While it's not usually considered as dangerous as its counterpart fire, water is very deadly, and the ocean in particular has taken countless lives. There are a ton of fears relating to the ocean and even relating to water in general, from the fear of drowning to the fear of underwater structures to even the fear of underwater machinery. But if I'm being completely honest, I think it's pretty unlikely that an ocean devil would be a primal fear. While there are a ton of fears relating to water, it's also one of the most beloved aspects of our world, and it's also an aspect that every human needs. This puts the strength of the devil into question, as the vast majority of humanity views water and the ocean positively, and I feel like that was the case even back when we were primal. It was a source of food and fun and a way to cool off. Even throughout history, it's mostly seen as something to be respected rather than feared, and I don't think much has changed. As such, I don't think the ocean devil would be strong enough to be considered a primal devil, but I still hope we get to see it eventually. The next devil I want to talk about is the disease devil. Diseases are weird when it comes to fear. They are obviously very deadly and can be scary, but the way they are scary is a little bit different. A lot of modern diseases are scared because of name recognition and their symptoms, but back in the day they didn't have the medical knowledge we have now. That doesn't mean that some sort of pandemic wouldn't be scary, as a bunch of people dying of the same thing at the same time would be scary, but at that point it feels like it's more of the fear of the unknown rather than the fear of an actual disease. And as we discussed earlier, the fear of the unknown might just be a part of darkness. There is definitely some sort of disease devil out there, I just don't think it's a primal one. I think this next devil is another strong contender for a primal devil, and right after this one we're finally discussing death. I want to talk about the possibility of a human devil. This one strays away from the primal aspect of a primal devil, but I don't know if there are many things throughout history that have created as much fear for humans as other humans. There are so many ways that humans can create fear for each other. Obviously there's human-based fear from war, but also human-based fear from propaganda, pandemics, abuse, discrimination, and so much more. All of these types of fears have been generated by humans since civilization was first developed, but I kind of think the fear of humans might stretch a little bit further back than that, especially when you consider how one of the most deeply ingrained fears in humans is the uncanny valley, or the fear of things that look human but aren't quite human. This fear could be a survival instinct. When humans were an apex predator, one of the only threats would be other apex predators like humans. So it could be that the uncanny valley fears originate from humans approaching in the dark, or perhaps corpses, or even other ways that human features get distorted. While this isn't necessarily a primal fear, it is still a fear that has existed in humanity for a long time. As for what this devil might look like from a design point of view, I can really only think of Makima from Jujutsu Kaisen. I just think he's the perfect example of human hatred towards other humans. Okay, let's finally get into the reason you are all here. The Death Devil. This is my hot take on the Death Devil. I think death and dying might be two different devils. When you think about it, the fear of death and the fear of dying are not really the same. The fear of death, to me, is a much more existential fear. It's the fear of the unknown, the fear of what lies for us after we pass on, the fear that this is the only chance we get, and that after our short time on this planet, our consciousness is gone forever, and we never get to live again. The fear that we just disappear into nothingness forever after we die. I feel like this is not a primal fear. When we were primal, I feel like we had other priorities, and probably didn't spend too much time thinking about what was next in the capacity that we do today. This fear of death is a relatively modern fear when we look at it in the context of human existence. It's especially new when compared to the fear of dying. Most people who fear death don't actually fear death. They fear the myriad of ways they could die. Death by gunshot, death by disease, death by natural disaster, death by car crash, death by drowning. The fears related to dying are far more numerous and far more common than the fear of death itself. So I don't think it's too far out there to say that death and dying could be two different devils, and it could even explain why death could be a horseman of the apocalypse if the dying devil is one of the primal devils. I'd love to hear what you think about this death versus dying devil theory in the comments down below, but we have one last devil I want to talk about, which is Chainsaw Man. I've seen a few people online say that Chainsaw Man is a primal devil, and I just don't think this is the case. I mean, chainsaws didn't even exist until like 100 years ago. While some sort of devil fighting devil might have existed before that, I don't think the concept of Chainsaw Man really falls in line with the primal devil. Devils. He's obviously just a powerful devil rather than a primal one. Out of all the devils we've talked about today, I think the most likely to be primals are the Dying Devil, the Sound Devil, and the Human Devil. Obviously only 2 of these can be primal, but I honestly don't know which ones it would be. Let me know what devils you think would be primal devils in the comments down below. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to subscribe. I mean, you made it to the end, you obviously like the content. Also follow my brand new Twitter. There will be a link to it and my Discord in the description down below. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next week.